Hold on to your butts.
Don't move, you're surrounded by armed bastards.
What are we going to do?
Well, I say let's get out there and twat it.
Welcome to another episode of the Cabin Night Podcast. I'm Jake.
I'm James.
I'm Rob.
And in this episode, we are going to be taking a little trip down memory lane and discussing cartoons, children's cartoons, adult animation.
Adult animation?
I mean, like Family Guy. And
Oh!
I'm not talking
Like
about
Fritz the Cat and shit.
I'm not talking about those things that I'm told you can find online that depicts.
What's online? I don't understand. I don't know what this is.
Matt Groening characters enjoying each other's company. Apparently, so I've been told. But before we get on to all that, I'd like to invite you to grab a drink, make yourself comfortable, and enjoy the discussion. It's something I said to you the other day, James. We are either all or soon will be in the fatherhood fraternity.
By the time this comes out, I will be. Yes.
Yes. So I also want to have a quick look at modern cartoons, kids' TV today, such as it is. You're obviously going to probably be seeing a lot different to what I would see, because my kids are still very much in the CBeebies, although very recently they've really taken with the whole Julia Donaldson, Gruffalo, Room on the Broom, all that lot. I'm thoroughly sick of all of them now, but you see little things like Trolls and Sing and things like that, which I don't think.
Hotel Transylvania.
Boys might enjoy that, but yeah, the state of children's cartoons these days, it's a far more diverse part, I think, than what we had when we were little. Do you think?
Well, from my little experience of modern cartoons, maybe, yeah.
So I think to start off with, I want to ask, what cartoons do you remember from when you were little? Because I know I mentioned to you the other day about Cartoon Network and Boomerang and things like that. You never had those.
I never had them. No.
So what was your go-to place? Where did you get your cartoon? Who was your cartoon dealer?
There's a guy in the pub who was really good. You want some cartoons?
Hey, do you want some Ren and Stimpy? What a horrendous.
Are we specifically saying cartoons or kids' TV? Because
I think cartoons.
If we're saying cartoons, then my go-to was Tom and Jerry. Mm-hmm. We had videos upon videos of Tom and Jerry. Yep. We watched stuff that was on children's BBC as it was at the time, and children's ITV rather than CBBC and CITV.
Going live.
Live and kicking and stuff like that, and SMTV a bit later. Yeah. So whatever they were showing. Mm. But as a kid, vividly remember watching a lot of Tom and Jerry. But because I'm the youngest in my family as well, so I was brought up on basically whatever my brother and sister watched. So I also remember watching lots of Danger Mouse and Count Duckula, Masters of the Universe.
What was that one?
Thundercats.
Tailspin.
Tailspin and DuckTales, yeah.
I
remember watching bits of them all the time.
What's happened about them gummy bears that live in wood or something?
Gummy bears.
Oh, yeah.
You said the thing.
Raggy Dolls.
Raggy Dolls.
Although it wasn't a cartoon.
It was a cartoon. Raggy Dolls was a cartoon.
They started out as
puppets
originally.
Did they? I remember the cartoon.
Started as puppets originally. Yeah.
Like Bill and Ben, isn't it? That were puppets.
Oh, puppets originally. Yeah.
That they went into animated in more recent years.
Yeah, past 10-15 years or so.
Real Ghostbusters, Turtles.
Yeah,
I'm not surprised Ghostbusters came into yours somehow. Unfortunately, there was no Doctor Who cartoon. No. Well, there was comic strips. There was no Doctor Who cartoon.
Banana Man.
Banana Man. Yeah, I remember Banana.
Jesus.
Eric, eats a banana.
Bucky O'Hare.
Bucky O'Hare was one of the shows where the theme tune was far better than the actual show.
Yeah.
Another dimension, another damn space.
Remember Johnny Quest?
Oh, Johnny Quest, I think I remember, yeah.
He was a guy with he got like a black shirt on and blonde hair.
Oh, it's Johnny Bravo.
No, and he got an Indian mate with a turban.
Tintin.
No.
I remember watching Tintin.
It's called Johnny Test or Johnny Quest.
Well, we shall ask Google. Johnny Quest, you're saying?
It's either Johnny Quest or Johnny Test.
Is that where the...
Yeah, I'd like a
no. You've described him almost perfectly. Johnny Quest, yeah.
That's him.
Is that where the Less Than Jake song comes? Johnny Quest thinks we're sellouts?
Possibly.
Potentially.
It had I remember the theme tune, because it was a black screen, it had like a green radar, and as it beeped on something, then the theme tune started.
Transformers.
So I never watched
Transformers. I never really watched
Transformers. The movie loads when I was a kid.
I would agree with you though. Tom and Jerry was probably my first, and to this day I can sit and laugh like a drain.
Oh god, yeah. Tom and Jerry, especially the old Tom and Jerry, like the 1930s and 40s, they haven't aged. They're still good. They're still funny.
I mean, I think probably because I'm slightly older than you. Do you remember Brave
Andy
Star?
Pandy.
But I remember Brave Star.
Eyes of a Hawk.
I do remember Brave Star. Again, because my
Birdman.
brother watched it,
Yeah.
I watched it.
Birdman.
Birdman?
It was I don't know, it was some sort of Birdman. I don't know. It was a cartoon that was on Cartoon Network, yeah.
Oh, no.
I mean, later on,
That was lost on me.
Biker Mice from Mars.
Biker Mice from Mars.
Biker Mice from Mars was good.
I loved that one.
I mean, as we were getting older, I suppose there were things like Pokemon. As we
Yeah.
were getting older.
Yeah. I never ever bothered with Pokemon.
Oh, Rugrats.
I loved Pokemon.
Rugrats, yeah.
The animation style Rugrats, it always put me off. I never liked
It's always
Rugrats.
moving, isn't it?
Which is, it always looked like it was badly drawn to
Yeah.
me, Rugrats.
Yeah.
And so there was always something about Rugrats that put me off it. I never really liked Rugrats.
I had Sky being from a kid, so like Ed, and Eddie,
Yeah.
Cartoon Network,
I am
Johnny
Weasel.
Bravo.
I am Weasel.
Again, I
Ren and
know of these
Stimpy,
programs.
Pinky and the
I am
Brain.
Oh, Pinky the Brain was shown on
Yeah, we had that on CIT.
on
That's
one of the
CIT.
channels. One of the
Pinky and the Brain.
They brought that back not long ago as
Yeah.
well. Well, Animaniacs on the whole they brought back
Animaniacs,
only a few years ago.
Quite liked Animaniacs as well.
Yeah.
Hong Kong Fooey.
Hong Kong Fooey.
Oh, we're going for the old yes, it's the Wacky Races and
Yeah.
Catch the Pigeon,
Flintstones,
Flintstone,
remember?
yeah, all the Hanna-Barberas, yeah. Yeah, there's also there's a lot.
It's interesting as well looking back over some of them, like such as Johnny Bravo, for example, and realising you wouldn't get made these days.
No.
A lot of them were very close. I like a lot of such as like Hey Dougie, for example, or even things like Kiri and Lou, which is some New Zealand dinosaurs made out of plasticine. It's all very weird. There's a lot in there for the adults. So like SpongeBob, they put a lot of jokes in there that could be took either way. Whereas in the original film, like in such as Johnny Bravo, they were quite on the nose. Like there's at one point he like admits to being a virgin and things like that. It's they didn't play about back then.
So I find it interesting that we were talking about the ones that we watched as a kid. All of them predate us.
Yeah,
Our favourites from before we were born.
yeah. Tom and Jerry.
Ghostbusters, real Ghostbusters.
Oh, no, that was okay. Well, apart from Real Ghostbusters,
89, that one.
but like you mentioned, like
Turtles went 87.
Well, okay. On the whole,
Predate you, not me.
on the whole,
For those of us born this century.
yeah, there was very few that we were talking about
Yeah.
that we grew up with. Like I don't know, I mentioned Pokemon, but I would never class. If I'm going to list my favourite kids programs for cartoon, Pokemon won't be on the. Even though I loved it as the time, I suppose in remembrance as a kid I liked it, but I wouldn't watch it again now.
Yeah, the old Hanna-Barbera ones I thought were quite hit and miss because like obviously I love Tom and Jerry and what have you, but I think like such as like Yogi Bear, I were never fussed about Yogi Bear. Or is it Miguel the Gorilla? Was he part
I
of
don't
that?
know that one.
And the octopus guy as well. They were an octopus. I forget his name. Captain Caveman.
He was an octopus.
No,
Taz?
he was
Tasmanian
a
devil.
testicle.
Yeah, all the Looney Tunes.
Looney Tunes, yeah. That goes nicely into like Who Framed Roger Rabbit and what have you, because a lot of them feature in that film, don't they?
Who Framed Roger Rabbit's great. I mean, terrifying to watch as a kid though. Who Framed Roger
Yeah,
Rabbit?
Christopher Lloyd.
We've started to get fever now. She's never watched it, but we've done it that many times that she goes, please, if she wants something.
And it works.
And it works.
Haley had never seen Who Framed Roger Rabbit until a few years ago, and she watched it and go, "What the fuck is this?" I went, "Yeah, it's terrifying, isn't it?"
It's like when his eyes turn into
Yeah.
daggers and his voice goes
Just
really,
like that.
And he starts springing.
Yeah.
It is absolutely
and his
horrible.
eyes are going all
Yeah.
like,
And
man,
when you see the shoe get
Yeah.
melted, you think, "Oh my god, what is this film?"
it's horrendous, really.
It's
isn't it?
It's horrible. I mean, it's great, but it's horrible.
It is horrendous. So your provider was like Cartoon Network and such, yeah. Cow and Chicken.
Nickelodeon
was a good
Nickelodeon,
show, yeah.
yeah.
What was the big ones on Nickelodeon though? Was
Rugrats.
Our Real Monsters.
Yeah, Real Monsters.
These are all getting lost on me.
Does
Not-
Thomas the Tank Engine
Hey
count
Arnold.
as animation?
It wasn't animated. It was live action.
Yeah.
It was. I wouldn't. I mean, if we were ranking kids show, Tom and Jerry, Thomas Tank Engine is number one.
Yeah.
But it's not. If we're going just for cartoons and animation, Thomas wasn't animation. It was live action.
Does for you, okay, this is an interesting question then. Okay, so it don't class as a cartoon, but the reason why I love Tom and Jerry so much is it's got rewatchability.
Mhm.
Does Thomas the Tank Engine have rewatch?
Yeah, I would say so.
You would watch that now?
No.
No,
Genuinely, yeah. Thomas Tank Engine is something I would put if I was feeling extremely shit. You know, I had the worst cold. I was thinking, if I wanted something just to put on and not really think about, I just want something just to have noise on.
Yeah.
I would put that on. But if you're going for a more modern one, like rewatchability, that isn't animation. Horrible Histories. I think those TV series are fantastic. I mean, they are brilliant. They're still good.
Thomas, though, it always kind of had that moral to it, didn't it, in each episode? It was one of the first shows that really kind of had...
It did. The early ones did a little bit because they were based on the books.
Yeah.
Which were written by a reverend. So they always had some sort of...
moral.
Not necessarily a moral, but a lot of them were kind of... the moral was being just, don't be a prick.
Yeah.
You know, or you might get bricked up into a tunnel. You know, which is the most famous example.
Yeah.
I'd watch Thomas. As a kid, Thomas was my number one. I'd watch that more than anything.
That's why I asked, because as a kid, mine was Postman Pat, but I won't watch it now.
No.
It was like my Thomas the Tank Engine.
Oh, okay.
I loved it, and I had a little Jess cat and everything, and it threw up on that cat so many times. Not on purpose, just, you know.
Time to throw up. There's Jess.
Cat.
What were it named that were very similar to Postman Pat, but he was a sailor?
Sailor. Steve.
I know Fireman Sam was done by the
Fireman
same company.
I've seen it now. A recent episode of Postman Pat. He's got like a plane and everything. He's like.
You seen recent Fireman Sam?
No.
Well, due to budget cuts, there probably isn't a fireman, is there? Wait, but you seen the Royal Mail have planes? Do think about this. It's the most unbelievable it's ever been.
I'm just googling some stuff, so carry on talking. I'll join you as and when.
I think Thomas I find Thomas still stands up today.
I tried to get Phoebe into it and rewatch some of the stuff and really liked it. Like, just Google some stuff. Trapdoor.
Oh, Trapdoor was brilliant.
Thundercats. Fraggle Rock. Inspector Gadget.
There's someone down there.
Scooby-Doo.
Scooby-Doo.
I was never that fussed by Scooby-Doo.
Yeah, I liked the early Scooby-Doo, and I liked the one with... I can't remember what the name of the series were, but it was just Shaggy and Scooby.
Oh, they're all... was that what's new? There was always a variation.
They were dealing with like a headless horseman in one episode, and...
Danger Mouse.
Danger Mouse was good.
Yeah.
Baba. Do you remember Baba?
Baba.
Which one's Baba?
It's the elephant.
The elephants.
Oh, yes. No, I do remember Baba, yeah.
The Jetsons. I liked them.
He's been conceived soon, isn't he?
What?
In his explaining, the Jetsons has been so many years old. And, And it's set in obviously 20 something or whatever. Which, if he's that age, it means he was conceived recently.
Right. Okay. I hadn't thought of that.
George Jetson has been born.
Oh, the hell!
It's a crazy thought.
That is a very crazy thought.
Still trying to find this thing.
Meet George Jetson.
His boy Crash Holly. Yes, if we go into other styles of animation, talk about Postman Pat. I used to also love The Wind in the Willows because David Jason was the voice of Mr. Toad.
Yeah, and he did the BFG as well. He was the voice of.
That was Cosgrove Hall. Who did Danger Mouse and Count Duckula did all them. But I love Wind in the Willows as well because the theme song was done by a folk singer, Ralph McTell. They did it.
Seen a few times.
I've seen a few times. It's really, really good. Actually.
Brum, not a cartoon, but Brum.
Brum was quite terrible. That car was quite terrible. I mean, I always wanted Brum.
I was upping it up into kids' TV then, so such as like Brum and
Tots
that
TV.
one we got Ollie the Alien.
Oh, Tots TV is Haley's favourite. Tots TV and Rosie and Jim.
Yeah.
What was that one about?
Ollie the Alien.
What? An alien?
Earthworld. Do you remember Earthworld?
I do remember Earthworld. We watched that at school.
I watched it. It was a big weird alien thing.
Yeah, it was one of the sort of educational kids programmes, wasn't it? Yeah.
And there's Erwick Dog as well, Pippin.
Earthworld. Was it called Earth Warp?
I think it was called Earthworld.
Yeah. I do remember. Yeah.
Yeah, so opening it up to like kids' TV as well, then, not just animated, but
That's in Portland Bill.
Portland. No, yes. Now you've said that.
no,
It was basically Postman Pat, but on water.
I
Lived in the White House.
Do you remember same animation style? Charlie Chalk.
Yeah.
Charlie Chalk. Oh no, I love Charlie Chalk.
No.
Charlie Chalk was about basically a clown that gets washed up on a desert island and there's loads of
was
people.
that one? Bod.
Bod.
Here comes Bod. Google it.
I remember Pob. Pob was one that spat all over the screen.
Oh yeah, no, it weren't him.
Jumbo Jet. Jimbo.
Jimbo the Jet Set. I do remember Jimbo the Jet Set.
Budgie the
The only thing about Jimbo the Jet Set, there was an episode where they went to the Bermuda. Oh no, we're flying into the Bermuda Triangle. It was literally a red flashing triangle in the sky.
What was the one where it was the game show one where you had Nightmare.
Nightmare, we were talking about this the other day, weren't we?
Nightmare.
Yeah. I know, I was talking with Oliver about it,
Do
actually.
you remember Nightmare?
Yeah.
So it would
Again, I do because my brother watched it.
It
so
was.
I
You went as a group. I don't know if there were 4 or 5 of you.
think there was 3 in the control room
So
and
there
then
was
one with
4
a
of
helmet.
you.
Yeah.
So, so let's say, for example, we've got 4. So if Joe had come today, we've got Joe. We send Joe into this VR realm, although it's not VR because he just puts a helmet on and he can't see bugger all. And what you see on the screen is him superimposed into that, and we have to tell him what he's got to do.
Right, yeah.
So he's got to take 3 paces forward and 2 to the left, and he does it. And you'll see like a bridge that's bent, and that sort of thing. You'll have to walk down that bridge.
Yeah, do not remember that at all. No.
Games Master. I mean, I know it weren't.
With
kids show.
the severed Patrick Moore head flying in the sky.
Yeah.
That's
Giving
right.
the
I thought it
cheats
was
for your
giving rise
GameCube.
to things like Crystal Maze and Fought by Hard and things like that.
So I didn't watch football. I watched
Fought by
I watched.
Other than the Messenger.
Messenger.
Oh, but that was like Gladiators then. Oh, Jet. Yes, many a boy approached puberty quite quickly when Gladiators.
So
on.
what? As another question to ask them, what you mentioned already about you would watch Thomas the Tank Engine, but what is there anything that you watched as a child, a cartoon that obviously withstands the test of time, but has got that rewatchability, but it's as good today as it ever was? Is there anything that has endured and is as good as when it started? Like Tom and Jerry, for example, is one I'd pick.
Yeah.
But one I watched a lot when I was younger, and it's still one that I would watch now, and I know you're going to disagree on every level. But SpongeBob.
I do disagree on every level.
I think SpongeBob's as good as it ever were because it's got a nice mix of young and adult jokes in there.
People watch SpongeBob.
Yeah, there's a lot in there for the adult mind.
See, I don't know. So when did you first watch SpongeBob? How old were you when you first watched SpongeBob?
It came out in '97.
Did it really?
See, how we're out of cartoons.
So, but I say because it was on. I'm assuming it was on Cartoon Network, wasn't it?
Nickelodeon.
So I didn't discover SpongeBob till like mid 2000s.
Yeah.
So for me, it wasn't a kids thing
I
at
think
all.
it was '97 that it started.
And I was seeing this thing going, I don't. Not that I don't get it, as in I don't get the jokes. Was that I don't get why people like these characters.
When was SpongeBob created? Because Pantera appeared in.
Yeah.
'99 was the first episode.
Oh, he's still earlier than I thought. To be fair.
Yeah. May the 1st.
Not a cartoon as such, but I remember watching Saved by the Bell, and you can buy so much of the box set now, and I'd watch that still.
Really, you think that you still think that holds up?
I'm not so sure that it would hold up, but
And I'm not saying like necessarily new episodes of that same show because like
because they have released new episodes of that.
yeah, and SpongeBob as an example are one of the few where their newest episodes are as good as the old ones because they're just mindless drivel. Whereas like Simpsons, for example, which is probably one that's going to go down at the very top of my list because it's one I remember watching from it came out.
It's not a kids show.
It's not a kids show, but
We
it's
watched
a cartoon.
it.
But it is a cartoon.
And we watched it as kids.
Yeah,
We
it
did.
Started
is
in
a cartoon.
1991.
89.
89, the first episode, yeah.
It was older than me. On Tracy Ullman show. So it's
Well,
it's
that's
always.
old, isn't it? It's as old as you.
It's funny coming from you. For the benefit of our listeners, Robbie's falling asleep currently because it's past his afternoon nap time. His wife's just in the kitchen now mixing up his applesauce for his dinner. Yeah, but it's a cartoon though, and it's one that I watched. It's always been part of my life, Simpsons. So that's one where now the new episodes aren't good, but the old episodes have got rewatchability.
Yeah.
The classic episodes.
I don't think they do. For me, and this is definitely me personally. I'm not saying they don't because obviously I'm not that. I don't just Simpsons. I just feel like for me, the Simpsons haven't aged well. For me personally, no. I'm not being kind of in an un-PC type way. It's just that I don't know, but compare it to something like Family Guy. I'm not saying Family Guy's better because Family Guy is just different. It's even though they're both animated families, they're both different. And I love Family Guy. I'll always choose. If I had a choice between Simpsons and Family Guy, I'll always choose Family Guy.
It depends what. If it's just a case of sitting down and watching one, I will always choose Family Guy. But if I'm picking one to be struck from the face of the earth and never see it again, I would choose Simpsons to stay because it's had more of an impact.
Simpsons has more. If there was no Simpsons, there'd be no Family Guy.
Yeah.
I always preferred American Dad to Family Guy.
Did you?
Got good moments, but it's not as good as Family Guy, I don't think.
No one will ever pick Cleveland Show.
I thought it was
I want to see a Quagmire show.
I just think you should just do away with all of that and just have Family Guy, because it's clearly what he's best at.
Well, the book Cleveland is back in. He's back in.
Back in.
And is American Dad still going? I was like,
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, I never thought it was as good, but it was.
Yeah, it had its moments, definitely.
Yeah. No, but that's, again, going back to what we said about like ones from childhood, I very clearly, I mean, it must have been, well, we moved out of that house in 96, thereabouts, so it's pre-96, so I would have been somewhere in the region of 6 years old. Watching that episode where they set the old, you know where Homer grew up in that farmhouse, and set it on fire, and accidentally gets set on fire because Homer and his dad have a falling out, and then they say, why don't we go for a nice relaxing roll in the hay, roll in the fields or whatever, and then you realise that they're both on fire, and that's how the episode ends. I remember watching that episode in 95 or whenever it was. And then as bedtime routine started, we went up for a bath and then had a bedtime story and what have you. So it's that link, that childhood link. Okay. So it's always got a strong nostalgic element to it. And I'm big on the nostalgia thing, the sentimentality and all that.
There's 3 episodes that always spring to mind when I talk about Simpsons. There's Blinky the Fish.
Yeah.
There's the one where he buys his RV.
Yeah.
And there's the one with the substitute teacher that plays guitar that Lisa falls in love with.
Yeah,
them 3,
Mr. Bernstein.
Just always stick out in my head.
Weinstein. Yeah.
Them 3 episodes I really like.
Yeah, I had them ones on VHS.
I had all characters.
I used to love the Simpsons. In fact, only very recently I've given away a Simpsons chess set I had.
Yeah.
Giving it to a charity shop.
Simpsons Sing the Blues CD. I had
Yeah.
that, Bartman, all them.
Oh, do the Bartman. Jesus, that's.
I had everything. Everything. I were crazy on Simpsons.
Simpsons were.
But again, it were at that time. I were 5 when Simpsons started. So.
But again, Simpsons wasn't designed as a kids program. It was an adult show that kids. Well, it started off like Family Guy. It was an adult animation. Okay, not quite as adult as Family Guy, but it was an adult animation that kids just happened to watch. So Simpsons then leaned into that. Go, well, this is a majority of our audience, so we're going to not make it as not controversial, because it was never really that controversial, but
not in the same way that Family Guy has been.
Family Guy does it to make a point.
Yeah,
doesn't it?
Like,
so they lent into the more family oriented audience they then had.
So could you possibly think then, because there's a lot in modern cartoons certainly where it's got to be PC and they've got to have a moral, and like you said about Thomas, that's always had it. Do you prefer the ones with morals, or the ones that are just a situation that you just dropped into and you go along on for that ride with the characters?
As long as the moral's not bashed over their heads, I think it's all right. I think it's fine.
Scooby-Doo is a good example. There's not a moral as such other than don't dress up as a ghost for your own benefit. I think is the moral. But then certainly a lot of current stuff. It's that you've got characters in shows like and Dougie does it incredibly well. There's a character in it that's an adopted character, and he's a rhino, but his mum's an elephant. Oh no, he's a crocodile, and his mum's an elephant because he's adopted. So it's and the thing with Dougie is it's not rammed in your face. It's just, oh yeah, by the way, that's that, and then
you move on, and
you've got like a same-sex couple, crabs that are in it as well, but again, it doesn't make a big song and dance about. I mean, there's a lot of singing and dancing in Dougie, but so I think that's a good balance of it. Then there's a lot on there as well that's like, oh yeah, this one's different. This child is different, so therefore they're the star of the show, and we'll talk about how they're different and how they fit into society.
I get that.
And it's representation. I'm sure it makes a point for some people and what have you. But I always appreciated more. We're in this situation like Scooby-Doo. I just want to enjoy these guys solving mysteries.
I think that's what I liked about Thomas. Really, it never did really drive any sort of moral home when you're watching it as a kid. You were like, what the fuck? It's a great episode. That picked him up, kind of. And then it's when you look back as an adult, you go, oh yeah, he was being a dick, so they did that to him.
That's the difference, isn't it? Though it's you can have a moral or a point for the sake of having a point. It's like, right, what's the moral of this episode? Whereas the way Thomas did it, I think the moral was there through the telling of the story, rather than okay, at the end of the episode now, what have we learned?
Which is
Jerry Springer's final thought.
Which is when I think kids' TV goes off the rails.
Yeah,
is when it starts preaching. Starts preaching to them.
Yeah.
But things like Banana Man and stuff, they never really.
Yeah, the moral, no. Well, eat a banana, I suppose, is the moral from Banana Man.
Bananas in pyjamas. I mean, I know that weren't a cartoon.
Chasing teddy bears.
Mm.
That I found out recently is an Australian cartoon. I never knew that.
The Australian accents not give it away.
Again, maybe we weren't paying that much attention to accents when I was little, but.
But again, I remember that being when I was older, Bananas in Pyjamas. I don't remember watching. I remember it being on, but I remember being
again. Like you watched stuff that were probably a bit older than what you were because of your brothers.
Yeah.
Well, I watched it with Sam, so again, it was one that I came to later. Really. What about like really disturbing cartoons then, like Watership Down or
Watership again?
Ren and Stimpy.
Watership Down. Everyone, it's not a kids' film.
No,
it's an animated film. It's not a kids' film because Watership Down's horrible.
Ren and Stimpy was like, I guess, one of the precursors to Family Guy in a different way.
Yeah.
Let's see what we can get away with in this
element.
Let's see what we can get away with in this.
Well, then South Park as well. If you can, see what they can get away with, see what they can push the boundaries for. I mean, again, I was aware of Ren and Stimpy, but I never watched Ren and Stimpy.
To be fair, both me and Emma do like Ren and Stimpy.
I'm going to talk about, you know when you talk about ranking these sorts of things as well, God tier. I'm going to talk about a God tier episodic now, and I'm sure you'll, you certainly will. X-Men, the animated series.
X-Men was good. If only for the theme tune.
Just only for the theme tune, yeah. But things like such as Spider-Man as well, though, and
yeah, those Marvel cartoons.
I never bothered about Spider-Man.
Mobius and Craven and
X-Men, yeah, definitely. But
X-Men.
The X-Men. To be fair, that was probably the problem with X-Men. The theme tune was so good, I wasn't bothered by the rest of the episodes.
That's done now.
The best bit's done with it now. Yeah, I suppose that was, looking back, that was probably one of my first exposures to Marvel, was the X-Men
I think it
TV
was
show.
possibly
X-Men
Spider-Man, yeah.
Because they were shown on
Channel 4 or
on Channel 4 or something like that. Actually, one animated cartoon I remember as a kid liking, and no one else remembers it, or you might.
Because I'm old.
Well, no, because quite weird to look at it, but it was actually one of the first examples of CG being used for a cartoon. It was called Reboot.
Oh yeah.
Because I remember that being quite dark. Like one of the seasons end, like the bad guy was called Megabyte and shit. You know, it was all shit like that. Because they lived in the internet.
It just reminded me, Street Sharks.
Oh, yeah. Street Sharks was so bad.
Rollerblading
shark. Basically turtles, but with sharks.
Yeah, they were at the same time as Back of My from Mars, weren't they?
Yeah, it was that kind of craze. But the 90s was definitely a thing of where it was you had a cartoon to make a toy line. The cartoon was there to sell the toys.
To do that. And it worked because I had them. And later, I suppose you would add like Bionicles into that as well. Lego Bionicles.
That's a bit after my time, but yeah, definitely. Well, if you get to like again, not a cartoon. Power Rangers. I loved Power Rangers as a kid. I loved.
I don't think I've ever seen a full episode.
No, we watched it relatively religiously. Power, especially like especially the first series, as it were. You know, with the original Rangers. I loved them. We all loved them, and house.
I think it was. We were never allowed after that news story. I told you, and I can see it from my mum and dad's point of view. To be fair, but being impressionable boys that like to fight anyway.
Yeah.
When that news story broke about that lad who were copying it, and his brother kicked him in the hip and broke his hip or something. Yeah. We were never allowed to watch it. So, yeah.
Well, Mum and Dad didn't like us watching it, but we did anyway.
Yeah.
I think Turtles for me were probably the one that.
Turtles were great. It was
not Ghostbusters,
era.
But Turtles I think were probably.
Okay.
When I was younger. Because I probably didn't really get into real Ghostbusters until the 90s, whereas I got into Turtles a little bit before that.
Have you seen the most recent episode of Turtles?
No, I don't like new animation.
It's really weird. Really. And Raphael's huge.
Yeah.
He's an absolute beast, and all others are like normal size. It's really weird. Not quite as weird as the live action Turtles with the really scary
the animatronic faces, yeah. They are quite weird.
And Kevin Nash is Shredder.
Kevin Nash he's Super Shredder.
Yeah.
Kevin Nash he's Super Shredder in that, yeah.
And Uncle Phil from, I think he's the voice of Shredder.
Yeah, in the animated one.
The animated series, yeah.
Shredder, grip of steel. So, Thomas Bean, your early favourite. You said Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Yeah. I don't know what mine would be other than Tom and Jerry, because Tom and Jerry is obviously a bit earlier. Was there a cartoon you watched when you were a bit older? You know, like Caleb now, his favourite things are like sort of CBeebies era, but it's but like his making the jump into like Paw Patrol now, which is an older kids sort of thing. Did you have one when you were older?
I honestly can't remember.
It's hard to.
Because I can't remember when I started watching Tom and Jerry and Thomas and stuff like that. I remember Thomas always being there. Yeah. I think I always went back to Thomas.
I think probably Rugrats for me, or Doug.
I never watched Doug.
No. I think it's probably, because it's the one I keep going back to, I would say mine would be SpongeBob.
Oh, good for you.
That was a dog as well.
I think mine would be SpongeBob. I think because I watch it now and I loved it then.
See, I became a bit of a weird kid in the sense that, well, yeah, I'm a very weird adult. In that we found my dad's tapes of Red Dwarf and Fawlty Towers, so we started. So I remember, at a very young age, starting to watch British sitcoms. So that became my viewing as a kid. And it wouldn't be a cabin recording without a fucking dog barking, wouldn't it?
I moved
Sunday cabin
quickly from cartoons to like Saved by the Bell, California Dreams, Hang Time, all
the basketball. Yeah, I think
all the school kids doing a certain thing.
So I remember them being on, but I didn't watch them.
California Dreams were a band.
Didn't watch them religiously.
No, I did.
I never watched.
So I suppose, yeah. In that respect, I suppose it would have been Power Rangers. I went on to in that. If I think
Mona
about
the
it.
Vampire. That was another good one.
Again, I remember it being on, but I never watched it.
Yeah.
See, it's so weird to think now because all the stuff that I watched as a kid, that I'll try and get Phoebe and Elias into when they're older. She watches loads of stuff now. Phoebe, there's Bluey, there's
Bluey's great.
You'll find that on Disney Plus when you go.
Okay.
It is great.
Well, again, cartoons. I watch a lot of Disney films.
Mm-hmm.
Go back to cartoons. A lot of Disney films.
It in that area. I want to make a mention because you and I think we've been down memory lane quite a bit now. We've reminisced wonderfully, but you made a point on animation earlier. You're talking about different types of animation. We can't talk about different types of animation. We are discussing Ralph Bakshi's Lord of the Rings. How horrendous!
Oh, it's awful.
But it's also creepy because I watched it when I was little, and then yeah. But the
sorry, I'm going to cut that noise out because without the hands, no, I just sound like I.
But if you know. But
what's that in school?
The Black Riders, what are they called? The Wraiths, Night Wraiths. They were ring Wraiths. That's it. They were really creepy in Ralph Bakshi because they've got the glowing eyes. It was like
really
the fog.
Really creepy anyway.
Well, yeah, but they were really creepy in that. But whereas the rest of the animation was like dopey and a bit clunky, whereas they were just creepy. And Battle of Helm's Deep when the
it's been years since I've watched them. I can't really remember.
Did they not put it on one of the special editions of Lord of the Rings? I think.
No, it's on the Blu-ray version. It's not on the DVD versions. We've seen about what I thought you were going to say, so we can't talk about animation. We can't mention these guys. It's Wallace and Gromit.
Yeah. Aardman.
Yeah, all the Aardman. I mean, I know Aardman's only. Well, they doesn't. He still didn't do that much TV because Wallace and Gromit were technically for short films. But they
because it took so long to do.
Well, yeah, it took like 5 years to do one film. Yeah.
But they were, I guess, at the time they were made for TV, weren't they? They weren't filmed.
Well, the first one was his university project, and it just got picked up by the BBC. We want to show this.
Second ever trip to the Lyceum. That Wallace and Gromit.
Did the stage show Wallace and Gromit? I didn't know that.
Yeah. I can't
See,
remember.
I never really watched Wallace and Gromit. She watches it now, Phoebe. So
I'm not forced to personally.
I've gone back to watch it.
I've always loved Wallace. Watch Curse the Were-Rabbit every Halloween. It's a great horror film.
That's what she keeps watching the most.
It's entertaining. I won't call it a horror film.
It's so funny to hear her try and say cracking cheese Gromit because she tries to do it in the accent, but she just ends up sounding more and more Yorkshire. It's great. It's great. Cracking cheese Gromit. It's great. Yeah. I never really bothered about that. And then by the time, like I said before, I think Lion King was the last Disney film I remember watching, and then I got into films like
horror,
proper films, horror, and Pulp Fiction came out 2 years later. Scream came out 2 years later. Reservoir Dogs were 94 or 5.
4, I think that was Reservoir Dogs. Yeah.
That's when I
stopped with it.
Yeah. So
that's when your childhood died.
Mid-90s, my childhood went away, and I started watching films. So.
Yeah, I don't think I could pinpoint a particular moment at which
I can only do it because
I still watch it now.
I know Lion King came out, and I remember going to cinema to watch it and loving it. and I know Toy Story came out a year later or 2 years later.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
And I'd never seen Toy Story until we had Phoebe. So
But in my head, there's a bigger gap.
yeah,
It's really weird, even though there is only a year between them. In my head, there is a much bigger gap between the two. I don't know why, but just in my head,
yeah, no.
there's probably no rhyme or reason for that.
But
at all.
I think Pixar itself,
But it's its own episode.
it looks
Pixar, isn't it?
drastically different to Disney. So I think just because it's drastically different, I think it makes the animation look better. So it seems like a bigger gap.
It's about,
between
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, the CG has aged pretty badly, I think, on the first Toy Story, but yeah.
I wouldn't say badly. It's clearly not as good. I wouldn't say it's aged badly because it's.
CG just does on the whole because
Yeah.
as you know, advances move forward, you know, the quality changes.
Right, we'll finish it here then. And because it's not cartoons, but it's animation. What is the best example of an animation in a film? And I'm not saying it has to be an animated film, but when you look at the CG, the special effects that you have in films these days, and I will say the T-Rex coming through the fence in Jurassic Park. I think that has not aged, that particular bit. Other bits, yes, definitely. But in terms of CG, it was groundbreaking at the time, weren't it? The first time it had been used that kind. And
I think a lot of the CG in the Peter Jackson Lord of the Rings still holds up.
Yeah.
It's 20 years old now, and for CG, you know, that's a lifetime in computer graphic terms.
yeah.
I think that still holds up. I really do think that still holds up in there.
I just find it so bizarre that some CG today looks worse than it did
Yeah,
20
yeah.
years ago.
I'm going to go back even further and pick a very specific part of a very specific film. The proton streams in Ghostbusters.
Music. I was trying to figure out how you're going to work in Ghostbusters.
Well, I think that we've covered that, haven't we? That's enough reminiscing for today. We have
No more memories for you.
put that back in the. Push it down, put it back in the memory box, don't think about it. Repress. We've only got one thing left to say. We've been Cabin Night, you've been great, and good night.